Historically, he's right up there with the Klinsmans, the Bradleys, the Arenas of the world. We need to give him one more chance to make one more crack at it, see if he's learned anything, and if he has, it will end up being probably the best hire that the U.S. men's national team has seen in quite some time. It was announced on the same night that strategically it had to be the most tactical decision ever. But on the same night that the U.S. men's national team were playing Mexico in the Nations League semifinal, and U.S. did win 3-0, but it was actually announced during the middle of the game, which is very, very interesting to me. It had to be someone's higher up decision in the front office there at the Federation. But with that said, I want to really quickly, now that we've had a couple of days or a few days to let Twitter unfold, let all the YouTube videos come out, let everybody's opinion kind of be said and be heard. I feel like the internet, and especially USMNT Twitter, overreacts to everything, to every news, to every piece, to every roster call-up or exclusion. And I know everyone's entitled to their opinion, but I do think that we had to make a video, but I had to do it as well informed and educated on the topic as I possibly could, informed on the opinions of the internet, and listening to the rationale behind why a lot of so-called fans of Team USA just don't want this guy to be rehired. Let's dig in. Gregg Berhalter, bro. I'll get your opinion. I have my own hot take. It's going to be a long one. I'm going to jump into it. But from your outsider perspective, you don't give two shits about this national team. Considering how it all unfolded, the Federation taking their sweet time, a 6-month process, hiring an external firm to help with the search or even guide the search, right? To find this next candidate, this next person who is going to take this golden generation of soccer players to hopefully what was going to be a deep run in the what we very much will call a home World Cup in 2026. Ultimately, we decided to go with Berhalter, bro. Was that a good move or a bad move from your perspective, and why?
I would say if I were to grade it, I would give it a lukewarm reception from somebody who, again, I could give two shits who the coach is. In my more objective opinion, I would say I was really hoping that Jesse Marsch would get the call up, just because, again, Leeds guy, he's got incredible rapport with a lot of the players. A lot of the players, even who haven't played for him, speak very highly of him. And so to me, that seemed like the perfect fit. That being said, though, I did a little bit of research, and, there were a couple of things that I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird. Why are they not going after big names, right? Like Patrick Vieira was another big name. I mean, somebody even wrote an article about why Zinedine Zidane or Carlo Ancelotti would be the move. And like, when you think about the money, like the US does have money. Like the Federation has a lot of money. So what I ended up finding out is a couple of interesting things. Number one, if they were to hire somebody like a big name, right? Let's say Ancelotti, and he wants to make, I don't know, $6 million a year, whatever it is. The equivalent basically for the US women's national team would have to make a similar salary as the men's national team.
Yes.
And so I didn't know that.
The new,
the new agreement,
legal laws and agreements around it. Yeah.
Right. So I didn't know that. And that started to make a lot more sense, because then I started looking at other names that were thrown out, whether they were MLS or even US based or not, that were, I wouldn't say the same stature, but it started to make more sense to me. The other thing too is obviously with the whole high school drama between the Reinas and the Berhalter and everything that unfolded during and after the World Cup.
Yep.
I think what the Federation did a really good job of is say, okay, we're going to give him 6 months to basically get off the spotlight, to lay low. We'll put the pressure on somebody else. We've got Nations League coming up. We've got the Gold Cup coming up. He doesn't have to be a part of it. And we'll get some of that media attention somewhere else. I think that was the best decision that they could have made. I think if they would have made an appointment right after the World Cup, it would have been a little too rushed, in my opinion. And honestly, it would have felt like something that Mexico would do, which is literally what we just fucking did. So I will give them credit for that. The last thing that I'll say, and then, I'll hear your rant about this, is the fact that the media, like I said, they did a really good job of laying off of it. They didn't really continue to build up on whatever the fuck happened between Berhalter and the Reinas. But I think that Twitter and the U.S. men's national team fan base got so toxic that they were the ones who were basically like, oh, we're going to be the ones signing the check pretty much. Like we get to decide. And it's like, dude, have you
Bro.
even looked at his track record? I saw a tweet, and I'm pretty sure you're going to bring this up when you start talking about this. But objectively speaking, like Berhalter has the best record probably out of anyone who's managed the national team for that amount of games. And
Yep.
so not only that, but also like from a momentum standpoint, like, you know, obviously a huge Mexico fan. The fact that we haven't been able to beat them in 6 games, all of that is basically due to Gregg Berhalter, right? So whether that means something to U.S. men's national team fans or not, whether it means more to the players, you know, to the senior players like Pulisic, McKinney, who've been very vocal about that rivalry, it doesn't matter. It's on paper. He's done it, right? It's not hearsay. It's not something that's like, oh, he might be the guy. So yeah, he may not be the most likable guy. He may not be the most, you know, well-spoken guy in the media. He may have all the bullshit with the Reynas, but at the end of the day, the guy has done it. Like he's proven that, you know, players buy in behind him and that he can deliver results. So all that to say, like I said, lukewarm in the sense that maybe I was expecting a bigger name, but now that I understand the dynamics and you know, kind of the magic that works behind the scenes in the federation, it makes a lot of sense.
It does make a lot of sense. I think it's a practical decision,
Yep.
right? Like I think we can all agree that it's a practical decision. The timing of it, depending on how you saw the entire situation from the Berhalter Reina debacle and how
Yep.
all of the media chaos, like you mentioned before, kind of unfolded. It either was good timing or bad timing, depend on how you kind of saw that angle.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, for a lot of people, the timing was poor because of all of the quote unquote resources that went into
Sure.
finding a new candidate. And you're right. We heard the likes of, dude, it wasn't just Zidane and Ancelotti, right? We heard Vieira, we heard Thierry
Mm-hmm.
Henry. Dude,
Mm-hmm.
Thierry Henry was answering questions on Paramount Plus, right? From Kate Abdo on
Yeah.
studio during Champions League matches about
Yeah.
whether or not he'd be coaching the men's national team. But when you look at some of these candidates and their track record as a coach, all they really were sexy names. No disrespect to my guys like Vieira and Henry. They play for my beloved Arsenal. I hold a very near and dear place in my heart
Yeah.
for them as players, but as coaches, they don't have the best track record. We saw Vieira get let go from Crystal Palace. Thierry Henry's had 2 different stints with either a national team or 2 different clubs where he
Mm-hmm.
just hasn't been successful. And you look at Berhalter's record, which I will almost drill this into the ground. This point, so many fans forget, like you mentioned, the track record, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you actually dig into the numbers, you could say CONCACAF is weak. You could say the
Sure.
countries that we have to play against in Gold Cup or a Nations League just aren't top of the quality bar.
Mm-hmm.
But those are still the teams that we're going to be playing against regardless. The nations that we're playing against, regardless of who our coach is. And
Yeah.
so to have a coach with a track record of already knowing what it takes to go to Guatemala on a
Sure.
Tuesday night on a shitty ass field and get
Mm-hmm.
a result, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
to go to Honduras and do the same thing, right? In a very
Mm-hmm.
hostile environment where there are cages around the field because the fans might react negatively. Like all of that, bro, all of that shit factors in. CONCACAF is its own unique beast, just
Yeah.
like South America, and the environment and the culture there can't compare to what's in Europe.
Yeah.
It's just night and day. And unless you've been there and experienced it, which for Berhalter, that is the case as a player and as a manager,
Yep.
you just won't get it. You won't understand.
That's a really good point. I think, and you'll see kind of how it translates or the parallels between U.S. and Mexico in that sense. That CONCACAF, we're not talking about UEFA. We're not even talking about like Asia. We're not even talking about South America. Like it's such a unique confederation where you think, oh, we're just gonna go to Honduras and we're gonna walk all over these guys. I mean, there's a
Nope.
reason why the U.S. didn't qualify to the World Cup back in 2014. That game
2018.
against Trinidad and Tobago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry, 2018. So it's like when you start thinking about those things, being a player and now being the manager of the national team, that has a huge impact. Like
Yeah.
he understands the game, he understands travel, he understands fans are going to be playing drums and throwing eggs at your window when you're trying to sleep at 3 a.m, like all that shit that goes into it. I don't know if Patrick Vieira does. Maybe he read up on it, but it's something very different than like actually managing a team there. And so what I've been seeing more results, especially from teams like that, is like maybe hiring a former player that played for the national team might be the way to go. And that's kind of what Mexico's doing right now with Jimmy Lozano. So
Yeah,
we'll get into it more.
I think it's from that standpoint, practical decision, right? It's
Yep.
like he checks those boxes. Now, if we want to dig even further into that track record, again,
Mhm.
so many U.S. men's national team fans hold who are the coaches they hold in regard the most, right? It's the Bob Bradleys, it's the
Yep.
Jurgen Klinsmans, it's
Klinsman.
Bruce Arena. Bruce
Bruce
Arena
Arena.
is like
Yep.
royalty, right?
Yep.
And when you dig into like win percentages, for example,
Mhm.
and how much of that, I don't know how much that counts for a lot of fans out there. Maybe some fans look at the numbers and be like, oh, it's again, it's CONCACAF. They should be winning games, but nonetheless, right? You look at,
Mhm.
I mean, I haven't pulled up here, bro. Arena,
Yep.
Klinsman, Bob Bradley, none of them surpassed 66% win percentage all time, right?
Yeah.
You look at Gregg Berhalter with 60 matches under his belt,
Mhm.
71% of the
Yeah.
time he's won. There's so much to be said in favor of Berhalter and why
Yeah.
this is actually makes a whole lot of damn sense bringing him
Mhm.
back into the fold. I think fans are still just very, very upset when it comes to the Reina situation, and I don't
Mhm.
think it's Berhalter solely to blame. I do put some. I will say he's naive in some ways, in that leadership conference that he went to, where he mentioned a player that was not to be named, but
Yeah,
we
dude,
all
come on.
knew who he was talking about
Right.
because he was one of the best players in the team that just got benched for no reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
That all of that stood out like a sore thumb, right? And then
Yeah.
expected no backlash. We're still so bitter about how that whole situation unfolded, how U.S. men's national team was perceived by the broader world, that
Yeah.
we wanted to have this crazy, sexy manager pick that we could flaunt to the
Mhm.
world, right? And say, hey, look at
Mhm.
us. We have a golden
Like a
generation of
statement
talent.
manager.
Yeah,
Right.
bro. Like if
Yeah.
we had an Ancelotti or somebody, it'd like,
Yeah.
bro, it doesn't even matter how we do. Look how massive US is. We pull
Right.
Ancelotti. Like, dude,
Yeah.
it's not about that. I think we
Yeah.
need a massive tournament in 2026. Not to say that those guys wouldn't do it. Not to say Ancelotti wouldn't do it. Is a
Mhm.
tournament manager. It's just that we to get there and to really kind of we have 3 years with some of
Yeah.
the best talent that we've ever seen come through the ranks. They're all pretty damn young. They've
Mhm.
already been coached by Berhalter for quite some time now, since 2018 when he got hired.
Mhm.
There's already some kind of rapport built up. You see some of the players like McKennie and Pulisic, saying good things. And granted, who knows how fabricated some of those quotes are, but at the end of the day, they're
Yeah.
public and they're very aware of that. I think there's a lot of naivety from the U.S. men's national team fan base that I think that we're so emotional. We're just overreacting to the selection because of how poorly it was timed, because of
Yeah.
how unsexy of a pick it is, without digging into all of the facts in terms of on the pitch results, and then factoring in what he's done most recently, which at the World Cup we all saw round of 16 exit to Netherlands, who did go on to make a little bit of a run in the knockout rounds, ultimately going out to the World Cup winner. But I will say this: it felt very similar to me to when in the last World Cup that we played in 2014, how Klinsman went out, right? Dude,
Yeah.
Klinsman went out in the round of 16, getting bombarded by
Yep.
Belgium.
Yep.
I think Howard had a record day. How many saves? 16, 17 fucking
Yeah.
saves.
So yeah, something like that. It
Something
was crazy.
stupid, bro. Like if he wasn't there, it just you almost wonder how embarrassing that could have been with what many consider to be one of the greatest rosters the U.S. men's national
Julian
team has
Green.
had in that tournament, bro. Julian Green replacing Landon Donovan, bro. And,
Mhm.
and again, I don't think Klinsman received the backlash. I mean, he kind of did, but I don't
Yeah.
think it was to the extent that Berhalter did. I think a lot of it has to do with the Reina situation. I don't want to get all of a sudden like, hey, I'm just on the Berhalter train. I think it's a practical decision that if I had to put a grade on it, I would give it like a B minus.
Yep.
Like
That's where I
it
was thinking
wasn't a
too.
great decision. It was
Mhm.
good. It was good. There were some things they could have cleaned up. I don't think they had to tell the world that you're hiring a firm and you're doing
Mhm.
all of these things to kind of find the right guy, taking it very seriously, spending a lot of time, a lot of money.
Mhm.
I think that for a nation that already spends way too much money, for a nation that embraces the widely hated pay to play model, it looks bad.
Yeah.
That part of it looks really bad. Like, why did you do all of this and then we
Mhm.
landed on the exact same guy we probably could have had from the very beginning?
Yeah, I think a
Um,
lot of it was definitely optics from the media. The other thing too that I was thinking about is, and just a quick caveat is, you and I had talked about this, but also, what if they made the decision back then after the World Cup, one way or the other? What if they didn't wait 6 months, right? So what if they were like, all right, well, here's our guy, we're gonna stand behind it. What would the reaction would have been? Or if they were like, "Yeah, fuck it, we're gonna clean house, he's gone, you guys can forget about him, we're gonna hire somebody new." You know what I mean? They could have taken it either way, and I still don't
I
think that would have been the right choice.
I think they would have hated it regardless, right?
That's what I'm saying. Either
Yeah,
one. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. The internet will hate it no matter what. I think back
Mhm.
then, a lot of fans were saying, "Well, he has to go now because he's probably no one confirmed it, right? But he's probably lost the locker room." You imagine
Yep.
that you would lose a certain level of trust if you were just quote unquote outing players or ousting players
Yeah.
at major public forums like the leadership conference he was attending. So, like that from that perspective, bro, I fucking get it. But like with that said, are we just assuming also that like coaches, managers, human beings don't learn? That they don't
Yeah.
learn from past decisions, from past
Yeah.
mistakes, that they're not intelligent at how they approach the game, especially someone as who claims to be as forward thinking with his tactics as Gregg Berhalter is. I
Yep.
think that like I don't know, bro. It just feels very emotional, very overreactive. The last gripe that I will say fans have a leg to stand on with will be man management. It will be, bro.
Mhm.
Like from now to 2026, that is going to be the
Mhm.
focal point. It is not does he get the tactics right, is does he get the personnel right?
Personnel.
Right.
Yeah.
So the men's national team roster was put together. How dude, Pepe wasn't included, Zach Steffen
Yeah.
wasn't included, there
Right.
and a few others, right? Where we were just like, that's an interesting call. I don't know if that works. The most glaring one for me was Pepe. I think we all
Sure.
agree with that. Dude, when you're calling up Jesus Ferreira and not
Yeah.
calling up Ricardo Pepe, it makes
Yeah.
zero sense.
It's like
But
in Mexico not calling Santi Jimenez when you know he's the best striker out there. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
and he's young and sure,
right.
whatever, not super proven, but bro, he's in form. He is
Yep.
literally scoring goals, and we don't have a striker of his profile
Like
on
that.
board. And you're
Sure. Yeah.
calling up Haji Wright. It's like, dude, there's like
Yeah.
other things where you're just like, it doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense.
Well, the other thing too is, I mean, we keep talking about 2026, and that should be the goal for both national teams that we're discussing today, including Canada too, by the way.
Yeah,
You know, the fact that you get to qualify automatically, like that is a gift, because if we didn't, I don't know if Mexico would qualify this time around. Um, but what I was trying to say is, yes, we're looking at 2026 as kind of that bar that we're measuring our coaches, our managers, our federation, you know, even our fans up to, because it's the World Cup. But
yeah,
let's not forget, I mean, the Gold Cup's happening, you know, in 5 days. The other thing too is Copa America is happening next year, and now we're a part of it. And
yeah,
so that to me will be the first test, right? Like, God forbid that, you know, the U.S. is bringing Team B to the Gold Cup. I get it. You know, all the European-based players are, you know, doing preseason. That makes sense. But God forbid that U.S. has a poor showing in the Gold Cup, and God forbid that they get destroyed in the Copa America. Then what? Are you still thinking that Berhalter is the guy? Would you make changes a year and a half before the actual World Cup? I don't know. I think you just stick with him. But again, the media and the fans are always going to go. They're going to hate every decision, regardless.
yeah.
So it's
I
going to
think
be interesting.
I think with our A team, if we bomb Copa America, that's a major red flag. It has to
Yep.
be there has to be a strong reason as to why.
Yeah.
And more importantly, if that reason is he lost the locker room, he has to go, no matter what. I will say that right now, so that's documented. Like that 100%. If
hmm
he shits the bed in Copa America,
hmm
then yeah. I mean, now if it's a lackluster showing, it's just kind of average. We crash out in early knockouts, and it's just like
Sure.
whatever. That's
Is what it
so
is.
50-50.
Yeah.
It's up to the federation at that point, right? It's like I don't even
hmm
unless there's someone who's in a very blatant way better is a better option than what Berhalter's given us up to that point.
hmm
Fine, right? I'm okay with the
hmm
change, but I'm also okay with keeping him. So it really
Yep.
kind of depends on how we do there. But with the whole man management point, and I'll kind of end it here as far as like the Berhalter rant. I think he can learn. I'm choosing to be fucking positive because at the end of the day, bro, like this if you're a U.S. men's national team fan, this is our guy. You can be
Yep.
in the mud, you can be in shambles all you fucking want. It's not going to fix anything.
hmm
I say we back him as the manager. He's produced the same, if not better, results historically, especially recently in
Yep.
comparison to other managers. He's got a good young group of talent to work with, a group he's already been working with. And has he made some mistakes along the way? Yes, bro. Yes.
hmm
But with that said, who hasn't as a manager? I think
Yeah.
we're critical because that's the culture of social media, and it's cool to be a fucking hater in 2023. But at the end of the day, I think Berhalter is a B minus. I think he will do a decent job. I think he can get better. What I'm hoping for most out of him moving forward is less rigidness in his
hmm
style of play. I don't want to. National team managers should not be teaching a system when you bring players into camp.
Yeah.
You shouldn't. You put in a system that's pretty direct, maybe a little bit pragmatic, right? But it plays to the player's strengths in
Yeah.
every single way. You're playing a tournament. You're
hmm
not playing a 38 match season. You're not trying to, prepare for a different type of club week
You
in
need
and week
results
out.
now. Yeah.
Yes, you need results immediately. And for that, it has to be a system that everybody knows how to play, and you have players that can implement the system well on the pitch.
Yeah.
If he can do that and let players just play with creative freedom, don't try to limit what someone like, Gio Reyna can do.
Reyna.
Don't
Yeah, he's a
let
perfect
him
example.
loose, bro. Give
Even
him the
Brendan
ball.
Aronson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let them loose. Let them off the leash and let them loose. And they
Mhm.
cannot be afraid to make mistakes. And
Yeah.
if Berhalter has a system in place that limits their creativity,
Mhm.
I will also be slightly more in favor of sacking him. But for now, we back him. The results have been there. Guys, he is
Yep.
the highest winning percentage all time of any
Mhm.
manager with that many matches in. That cannot be stated enough. Historically, he's right up there with the Klinsmans, the Bradleys, the Arenas of
Mhm.
the world. We need to give him one more chance to make one more crack at it, see if he's learned anything. And if he has, it
Mhm.
will end up being probably the best hire that the U.S. men's national team has seen in quite some time.